4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
d4. Knight f6, e3, c5, f4, e6, d takes c5, bishop takes c5, knight f3, d5, bishop d3, knight c6, queen e2, short castle, rook e8, knight c3, e5, f takes e5, rook takes e5. White didn't move, black is victorious. d3, e6, e3, d6, knight f3, bishop e7, bishop e2, bishop d7, short castle, knight c6, h3, knight e5, knight c3, knight takes f3 check, bishop takes f3, d5, queen e2, bishop d6, c3, d6, e4, e5, knight f3, knight f6, bishop c4, bishop e7, bishop takes f7 check, king takes f7, knight g5 check, king f8, queen b3, d5, e takes d5, queen d6, c4, h6, knight f3, bishop g4, d3, bishop takes f3, g takes f3. d4, d5, e3, knight f6, f4, e6, knight f3, bishop d6, bishop d3, short castle, knight bd7, c4, c5, c takes d5, e takes d5, d takes c5, bishop takes c5, rook e1, bishop b6, king h1, queen c7, knight c3. e4, d6, knight f3, e5, knight takes e5, knight f6, queen h5, d takes e5, queen takes f7 check, king takes f7, bishop c4 check, bishop e6, knight c3, bishop takes c4, d3, bishop e6, short castle, knight c6, h3, bishop d6, g4, queen e7, d4, d5, e3, c6, f4, bishop f5, knight f3, knight f6, bishop d3, e6, bishop takes f5, knight bd7, bishop takes e6, f takes e6, short castle, bishop e7, rook e1, short castle, e4, queen c7, e takes d5, d4, d6, knight f3, e5, d takes e5, d takes e5, queen takes d8 check, king takes d8, knight takes e5, King e7. Bishop g5 check. f6. Bishop takes f6 check. G takes f6. Knight g6 check. King f7. Knight takes h8 check. King g7. Knight f7. King takes f7. Knight c3. Bishop e6. e3. e5. d4. d5. d takes e5. Knight c6. Knight f3. Knight takes e5. Knight takes e5. Queen e7. Knight f3. Knight f6. Bishop e2. Knight e4. Short castle. Queen f6. Knight c3. Queen h6. Knight takes e4. D takes e4. Knight d4. Bishop e7. Bishop g4. e4. d6. Knight c3. e5. d3. Knight f6. Knight f3. Bishop e7. Bishop g5. Short castle. Bishop takes f6. Bishop takes f6. Knight d5. Bishop e7. Knight takes e7 check. Queen takes e7. h3. Knight c6. h4. d4. e6. e3. e5. f3. Bishop c5. D takes c5. d6. Knight c3. D takes c5. Queen takes d8 check. King takes d8. Bishop d2. Knight c6. Long castle. Bishop d7. e4. King e7. Bishop c4. Rook d8. e4. d6. g3. e5. Bishop g2. Knight f6. Knight e2. Bishop e7. Short castle. Short castle. Knight bc3. Knight c6. Knight d5. Bishop e6. Knight takes e7 check. Queen takes e7. d4. E takes d4. Knight takes d4. Knight takes d4. e4. d6. d4. e5. D takes e5. D takes e5. Queen takes d8 check. King takes d8. Bishop e3. Knight c6. Bishop c4. Knight f6. Knight c3. King e7. Knight f3. Bishop e6. Bishop takes e6. F takes e6. Long castle. King f7. Knight g5 check. King e7. Bishop c5 check. King e8. d4. c6. e3. d5. f4. Bishop f5. Knight f3. e6. Bishop d3. f6. Bishop takes f5. E takes f5. e4. Bishop d6. E takes f5. Knight e7. Short castle. Short castle. Rook e1. Knight takes f5. Knight c3. Rook e8. Rook takes e8 check. Queen takes e8. e4, d6, knight c3, e5, knight f3, knight f6, bishop b5 check, c6, bishop c4, bishop e7, bishop b3, short castle, d3, bishop e6, knight g5, bishop takes b3, a, takes b3, h6, knight f3, knight bd7, knight e2, knight b6, h3, d5, knight g3, d4, d5, e3, c6, f4, bishop f5, knight f3, e6, bishop d3, bishop g4, h3, bishop takes f3, queen takes f3, e5, f takes e5, f6, e takes f6, knight takes f6, knight c3, bishop e7, bishop d2, short castle, long castle, knight h5, queen g4, d3, d6, knight d2, e5, knight gf3, knight f6, e4, bishop e7, g3, short castle, d4, bishop e6, d takes e5, d takes e5, knight takes e5, knight c6, knight ef3, knight e8, bishop g2, queen d7, d4, knight f6, e3, g6, f4, bishop g7, knight f3, short castle, bishop d3, e5, short castle, e4, bishop e2, d5, knight e5, bishop g4, bishop takes g4, knight takes g4, knight takes g4, h5, knight f2, knight d7, d3, d6, bishop g5, e5, bishop takes d8, king takes d8, e4, king e7, knight f3, knight f6, knight c3, knight c6, knight d5 check, knight takes d5, e takes d5, knight d4, knight takes d4, e takes d4, queen e2 check, king d8, c3, bishop d7, c takes d4, c6, long castle, c takes d5, d4, d5, e3, e6, f4, bishop e7, knight f3, knight f6, bishop d3, knight e4, short castle, knight f2, rook takes f2, f6, rook f1, short castle, h3, c5, c4, c takes d4, e takes d4, knight c6, c takes d5, e takes d5, knight c3, bishop d6, bishop e3, bishop f5, king h1, bishop takes d3, d4, d5, e3, c6, f3, e6, bishop d3, knight d7, c4, c5, c takes d5, e takes d5, d takes c5, bishop takes c5, knight e2, Bishop takes e3. Bishop takes e3. Knight df6. Bishop d2. Knight e7. Short castle. Short castle. Rook e1. Bishop e6. Knight ec3. b6. Knight e2. a6. e4. d6. e5. d takes e5. Knight f3. e4. Bishop c4. e takes f3. Queen takes f3. Knight f6. Bishop b5 check. c6. Bishop e2. e6. d3. Bishop d6. Bishop g5. Short castle. Bishop takes f6. Queen takes f6. d4. d6. c4. e5. Knight c3. e takes d4. Queen takes d4. Knight f6. Queen d1. Bishop e7. Bishop g5. Short castle. Bishop takes f6. Bishop takes f6. Rook c1. Bishop e6. Knight e4. Knight c6. Knight takes f6 check. d4. e5. e3. Bishop c5. d takes c5. Knight c6. Knight f3. e4. Knight d4. Knight f6. Knight takes c6. d takes c6. Queen takes d8 check. King takes d8. Knight c3. King e7. Bishop d2. Rook d8. Long castle. King f8. Knight takes e4. Knight takes e4. f3. Rook takes d2. Rook takes d2. Knight takes d2. King takes d2. d6. Knight c3. e5. Bishop d2. Knight f6. e3. Bishop e7. Knight ge2. Short castle. Knight g3. Bishop e6. Bishop e2. Knight c6. Short castle. d5. f3. d4. e takes d4. e takes d4. Knight ce4. Knight takes e4. f takes e4. d4. e5. e3. Knight c6. d takes e5. Knight ce7. Knight f3. Knight g6. e6. d takes e6. Bishop e2. Bishop d7. King f1. Knight f6. h3. Bishop e7. Knight c3. Short castle. Bishop d2. Bishop c6. King e1. Bishop takes f3. Bishop takes f3. Queen e8. e4. d6. Knight c3. e5. Knight f3. Knight f6. d4. Bishop e7. d takes e5. d takes e5. Queen takes d8 check. King takes d8. Knight takes e5. King e8. Bishop c4. Bishop e6. Knight takes f7. Bishop takes f7. Knight b5. Knight a6. Knight takes c7 check. Knight takes c7. Bishop takes f7 check. d4, c5, e3, queen c7, d takes c5, queen a5 check, knight d2, queen takes c5, knight gf3, queen c7, bishop d3, knight c6, short castle, knight b4, bishop e2, knight takes c2, rook b1, knight takes e3, f takes e3. e4, d6, queen f3, e5, bishop c4, knight f6, c3, queen e7, bishop e2, bishop e6, d3, knight c6, queen g3, long castle, knight a3, king b8, knight c4, a6, bishop e3, queen d7. d3, knight f6, e3, g6, knight f3, bishop g7, bishop e2, short castle, e5, h3, d5, e4, d takes e4, d takes e4, queen takes d1, bishop takes d1, knight c6, bishop e2, knight d4, bishop d3, knight takes c2, bishop takes c2, bishop g4, knight c3, bishop takes f3, g takes f3, knight takes e4, bishop e3, knight takes f2, king takes f2. e4, d6, d3, e5, bishop e2, knight f6, knight f3, bishop e7, short castle, bishop d2, bishop e6, e3, e5, d4, knight f6, d takes e5, knight e4, knight f3, queen h4, knight takes h4, bishop c5, knight f3, bishop b4 check, c3, bishop e7, bishop d3, knight c5, bishop c2, knight e6, short castle. g3, d6, bishop g2, e5, e3, knight f6, knight e2, knight c6, short castle, e4, d4, e takes d3, c takes d3, bishop e7, knight bc3, short castle, b3, bishop e6, bishop b2, queen d7, rook c1, knight e8, f4, f6, e4. d4, e6, e3, bishop e7, f3, d5, bishop d3, c5, knight e2, c takes d4, e takes d4, bishop b4 check, c3, bishop e7, short castle, bishop d7, bishop e3, a6, queen d2, b5, king h1, knight c6, queen c2, bishop f6, knight d2, e5, knight b3, e takes d4. e4, e5, d4, bishop c5, d takes c5, knight f6, knight f3, short castle, bishop d3, c6, short castle, queen a5, rook e1, queen d8, knight c3, d6, bishop e3, d takes c5, queen d2, knight bd7, bishop c4. g3, d6, bishop g2, e5, c4, knight c6, d4, e takes d4. Bishop takes c6 check, b takes c6, queen takes d4, knight f6, bishop g5, bishop d7, knight c3, bishop e7, c5, d5, e4, short castle, e5,